If you've ever shopped for camping gear, you've probably noticed something strange. A simple stainless steel camping cup or bottle might cost $10 to $15. But the same item, made of titanium, easily double or triple as expensive for just a lightweight piece of metal. Why? Titanium is stronger than steel, lighter than aluminum, and completely rust-proof. It's the kind of material you'd expect in spacecraft, jet engines, and high-tech medical implants, not just for sipping coffee by a campfire. But here's the real surprise. Titanium isn't even rare. In fact, it's the ninth most abundant element in the Earth's crust. More common than copper, even more common than zinc. And yet, despite being everywhere, titanium remains one of the most difficult and expensive metals to extract. So, if titanium is so common, why can't we just dig it up and melt it into shape, like iron or aluminum?
Titanium is all around us, mixed into rocks, sand, and even in your own body. But despite being so common, you'll never find a chunk of pure titanium metal just lying around. That's because titanium has a clingy personality. It loves oxygen. Once it bonds, it forms incredibly stable minerals that refuse to let go. Unlike metals like gold or copper, which exist naturally in their metallic state, titanium is always locked inside compounds that are chemically stubborn. The two most important sources of titanium are ilmenite and rutile. Ilmenite, iron titanium oxide, is the more common of the two. Then there's rutile, a golden to reddish crystal made almost entirely of titanium dioxide. This one is more concentrated in titanium, which makes it the preferred ore when available. If titanium dioxide sounds familiar, it should. It's the bright white pigment used in sunscreen, toothpaste, and even food coloring. That means you've probably had titanium on your skin, or even in your mouth, without realizing it.
So titanium is everywhere. But if it's so common, why doesn't every factory just melt it down and shape it like steel? Unlike iron or copper, titanium doesn't play by the same rules. You can't just heat it up and extract the metal. That strong bond with oxygen makes it incredibly difficult to separate. Instead of traditional smelting, titanium extraction requires something much more extreme: fire, chlorine, and an incredibly slow, complex process that hasn't changed much in decades. And that's where the real challenge and the real cost of titanium begins.
If you try to reduce titanium oxide with carbon, you don't get metal. You get titanium carbide, a rock-hard ceramic that's completely useless for making anything structural. That's why titanium remained a scientific curiosity for so long. It wasn't until the 1940s that a Luxembourgish scientist, William Kroll, cracked the problem. Instead of smelting, he came up with a chemical trick. Swap oxygen for chlorine, then remove the chlorine using a reactive metal.
So instead of melting titanium out of the ore, we have to chemically transform it. And the first step is turning it into a completely different substance, a volatile liquid.
The process starts with titanium dioxide, usually from rutile, which is reacted with chlorine gas and carbon at 900 degrees Celsius, 1650 degrees Fahrenheit. But chlorine alone isn't enough to break the bond with oxygen. To help, we add carbon, which strips the oxygen away. The result? Titanium tetrachloride. But here's the strange part. Titanium tetrachloride isn't a metal at all. It's a liquid. A pale yellow, volatile, fuming liquid that evaporates easily and reacts violently with moisture in the air. If exposed, it forms a thick cloud of titanium dioxide smoke and hydrochloric acid. It's unstable, corrosive, and toxic, not what you'd expect from the first step of making a solid metal.
But in a way, that instability is exactly what we need. Now that titanium is bonded to chlorine instead of oxygen, we can finally separate it into pure metal. The trick? Using another element that loves chlorine even more: magnesium.
Magnesium is highly reactive with chlorine. When titanium tetrachloride is mixed with molten magnesium at 1100 degrees Celsius, 2000 degrees Fahrenheit, a chemical exchange takes place. The magnesium seizes the chlorine, forming magnesium chloride and leaving behind pure titanium metal. But the result isn't a clean, shiny block. It's titanium sponge, a brittle, porous mass full of trapped gas and impurities. To make it usable, it must be melted in a vacuum arc furnace, a system where an electric arc heats the metal in an oxygen-free environment. Unlike steel or aluminum, titanium cannot be melted in open air. It would react instantly, ruining the metal.
No simple melting, no quick refining, just a long chemical battle to separate titanium from oxygen.
Developed in 1938, the Kroll process became the standard for titanium production by the 1950s, largely because the aerospace industry needed lightweight, high-strength materials. Even today, despite its complexity, it's still the best large-scale method we have.
So we finally have pure titanium. But there's still one more challenge, turning it into something useful, like that ultra-light titanium camping cup. And just like extraction, shaping titanium is far from easy. Titanium is stubborn, even when it's purified. It's tough, resistant, and refuses to be shaped easily.
Compared to aluminum or steel, titanium is far more difficult to work with.
And what about shaping something thin, like a titanium cup?
For that, we use deep drawing, where a flat sheet of titanium is pressed into a mold using a controlled force. The problem? Titanium doesn't stretch well. Unlike aluminum, it resists deformation, which means too much pressure, and it cracks. Manufacturers must carefully balance heat and force to get the perfect shape.
And if you think welding might be easier, think again.
Titanium welding is even trickier. Unlike stainless steel, you can't weld titanium in open air. It will absorb oxygen, nitrogen, and even hydrogen, weakening the weld instantly. That's why it's welded in argon-filled glove boxes, or with extended argon shielding gas to protect the molten metal until it fully cools.
Finally, after all that effort, the titanium beaker gets its finishing touch, either polished or sandblasted for its signature look. And because titanium doesn't rust or corrode, it doesn't need coatings or special treatments. Just pure, lightweight, ultra-durable metal.
So, when you hold a titanium mug, you're not just holding a piece of metal, you're holding the result of extreme temperatures, oxygen-free processing, and precision shaping techniques. That's why it costs so much more than stainless steel or aluminum, and why it's worth every penny.
Whether it's in a jet engine or a simple mug, you're holding a piece of metal that's gone through one of the most complex refining journeys of any element on Earth. If you found this breakdown of titanium's secrets fascinating, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And if you have any burning questions about materials science, let us know. We might just cover it in a future episode. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.